start wasn't so rocky. I think if you remember, we were actually one of your top 15 magazines that year, number two, and I think we came out of the gate with gangbusters. But what happened to us is what happened to so many magazines, as you well know, over those couple of years that were really, really rocky for the economy. And I've often been asked in hindsight, would we have launched the magazine if we'd known what was coming ahead? And the sane answer would be no, wouldn't have, but I'm not sane. So I still would have done it. And I think that if anything, it just shows the perseverance that my employees, all of this group here, the team has, that our readers have, and that this brand has. So we have come out on the other side, and it will be our 5th anniversary this spring. Well, the way I got here was really because of my husband making a career change and going to seminary and becoming a Presbyterian minister. And I had grown up in South Carolina, so when given the option of where we might move with his new venture, it was very appealing to me to come back to South Carolina, and Charleston in particular, which is getting all kinds of kudos itself right now. It's a very hot town and a beautiful place to live. So, but I did come here with not any intention of starting a magazine. I actually had 2 young children at that same time. My husband with a new life, me living in a new place, and didn't anticipate that I would be starting a magazine. But 2 things happened. A number of my friends that I had known growing up started suggesting that we needed a great Southern magazine, something like the New Yorker. I didn't really think that that was going to work here. And then, as luck would have it, I met my partner, Pierre Manigault, who is chairman of the board of the Evening Post. And the Evening Post publishes the newspaper here, was interested in the magazine business, and asked me to come on as a consultant to help them to look at some projects that they were working on. I did that for a couple of weeks, and the next thing I knew, I was writing the business plan for what came to be Garden and Gun magazine. But really feeling that there was, when I got here, I did feel that there was a void. There was not a magazine that really spoke to people like me, or to, I think, people who were very sophisticated, very worldly, but in love with where they're from, which is this beautiful place called the South, where you also live. So I felt like there was something there, that there was a void in the marketplace, and did some research, put together a business plan, and very, very quickly launched a magazine. Well, I would say the biggest obstacle for me was having had an amazing career in New York with the best publishing companies that there are, and always having had somewhat of an entrepreneurial spirit, even within those companies. I worked on some of the challenging products within those companies. So I always felt like a marketer, an entrepreneur, starting new ideas within those companies. But it is very different when you sit in a room by yourself, when one sits in a room by oneself and tries to start a magazine, and you don't even have paper clips. It is, you can't go down to the 9th floor and talk to the circulation department. You can't go into the HR department and talk about benefits. You know nothing about buying paper. And so I tapped into friends in the business, a lot of resources, and that was, not that it was an obstacle, but that was a challenge to me, and something that I truly, truly loved. I think also a testament to the magazine is starting as a single title publisher at this point, not having not only the bench of people to rely on, but all of those subscribers that if you're launching a magazine, again, within a bigger publishing company, you've got lots of places to market your magazine, to mail to, subscription mailings to. We had none of that. So when you're really starting really from scratch, that's, as I said, more of a challenge than an obstacle. The name, a lot of people like to think or make an obstacle, was never an obstacle for me. I always, the minute I heard the name, I thought, gosh, this could just be something incredible, and it will be something that will stop people, but I know that if you open up the cover and you look inside, you're going to understand what this magazine means. And if you don't understand, then you probably shouldn't be subscribing to it or reading it anyway. Those are the major things. And then of course there was that little thing called money. That's close. Yeah, the Evening Post was a very good financial supporter of this magazine initially, and you know, I was devastated when they decided not to continue with it, but very appreciative of what they had invested into the company at that point. And it was, you know, a fortunate thing for Pierre and I to be able to buy the magazine at the point that we did when that kind of resource had been put against the magazine. But you know too, Samir, that $10 million, if that's what you know the number is, more or less, that's not really that much when you compare it to some of the launches that you and I have experienced, right? I mean, I do think that one of the things that I always hear about the magazine is how people do love to touch it and hold on to it. And I think part of our success is that we have in some ways brought back the beautiful old magazine. And we do not have a tremendous demand for digital at this point, although it is increasing and something we are very seriously looking at. So I think the two can coexist. Garden and Gun I see as the you know, the linchpin of this company. This is truly, my vision is that this is not a single title magazine company, and it's not just a magazine or a publishing company, that there are a lot of things that can come out of this. But, you know, we are only 5 years old, and it has been an interesting time to be in this business. So for me right now, I want to really make sure that everything that we do with the magazine, which is, you know, it is the core of the brand, is solid, and we're doing the best that we can possibly do while we explore other things, but not to step out too far too quickly, and really protect this amazing brand that we have built. Our readers are unlike anybody I have ever met in my life, and they are so loyal. They're not even readers, they're fans. And so every decision that I make about this company, I think about them, because I want them to come along for the ride. And they do want more. They're always asking for more, and that's why we do lots of events. That's why the club was really initiated. The retail, the demand was there for something like that. But I know they're very outspoken. They love to call us. They love to talk to us, and don't want to make any missteps that are going to make them stray away from us. This is our year. This is our year. We're which is our 5th year, which is, you know, is pretty much puts you on track for what I would say is the benchmark for a successful magazine. And business is really good. We just closed our April-May issue, which is technically our 5th anniversary issue, and it is the largest issue that we've ever had, and way exceeded what we had in the budget for it. Oh, you know what? I'm pretty exhausted when it's time to go to bed, between all my children here and my child, Garden and Gun, and my 2 girls, and my husband, who's kind of a child too. I'm ready to go to sleep when I hit the sack, but I tend to be one that wakes up more in the middle of the night, and because my head is racing, and it's all those things that I want to do. And it goes on into, you know, when I get in the shower, I need to keep that little piece of paper next to me. So going to sleep isn't the problem, but I wake up and I'm ready to do it all. 10 years from now, you know, I think that Garden and Gun will certainly be around. It's hard to say exactly how big the magazine itself will be in terms of circulation, but I always pictured that the magazine would kind of net out somewhere around 400, 500,000 in terms of total circulation. We will be either a monthly or coming out 10 times a year. I don't know, you know, will it still be print? That's a hard one to predict, although I do know that when I was publisher of the New Yorker many years ago, I was asked to talk about the end of magazines then, and we've all been talking about it for a long time, and they're still around. So I think, but I think Garden and Gun will be even more so, not a household name, but part of the language in this country. That when you hear the word Garden and Gun or G&G, which I think a lot of people will say, that you know what that means, that something is very G&G. It conjures up an image in your mind. And I think that we will be surprising people with some of the things that we're going to do in terms of ways that the brand is going to grow. And will be throughout the Southeast and beyond. I think not just the magazine, but other ventures that we have in mind. I'm getting to do what I always wanted to do in a place that I love to do it, and I am just incredibly, incredibly proud of the magazine. Much of the appeal beyond the South is not only to people who have visited the South or lived in the South or have some kind of connection there, but I think it is the literary quality of the magazine. The great writing is something that it doesn't matter where you live, you enjoy reading those kind of articles and seeing the incredible visuals in the magazine. Dave D. Benedetto, who moved up into the editor-in-chief spot when Sid left, has done just an incredible job. I mean, he just stepped right in, and in fact, his first issue was the last one that had the dog on the cover, not the drinks one, but that issue has sold incredibly. Barnes & Noble is kind of our sweet spot, and we are selling at levels that would really amaze people in places like that. So he's doing a great job, and I also would be remiss if I didn't just give a little kudo to Barbara Bing, who is our publisher, who lives in Atlanta, and is someone who I've known over the years on most of the magazines that I worked for, but she is doing an amazing job really getting out there with the magazine, and is a big piece of our success too.